Education saves our lives through the storms and through the strife. Protect the schools both day and night. Education keeps the future bright. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all.
Hello.
Hello, Robbie. Audio is okay and your video is okay.
Times of crisis, we must stand tall.
Hello, good morning.
Education must
Hello,
reach us
Asai.
all.
How are
Hi,
you?
how are you? Good, thank you.
Hello, Lauren.
Hello, Jack.
Hmm.
Through the storms and through the strife, protect the schools both day and night. Education keeps the future bright. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are you all? It's so hot here in Manila.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Thea.
Peter. Hello, Thea.
Hello, Maya Rene. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay.
of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. Education saves our lives. Through the storms and through the strife, protect the schools both day and night. Education keeps the future bright. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all.
Hello, everybody. Just to say that we will start the live streaming now.
In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. Education saves our lives. Through the storms and through the strife, protect the schools both day and night. Education keeps the future bright. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. Education saves our lives. Through the storms and through the strife, protect the schools both day and night. Education keeps the future bright. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all. In times of crisis, we must stand tall. Education must reach us all.
So, good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga. That's good morning in Filipino. And welcome to the Regional Dialogue on Education in Emergencies. This is part of the Global Action Week for Education 2025. And this event is brought to you by ASBE, the Global Campaign for Education, and the Interagency Network for Education in Emergencies. So with the theme, Education Saves Lives, Protect Education in Emergencies. We are being live streamed to the FB page of ASBE. And for now, may I ask you to rename yourselves, to put in your names and your organization so that we know our names and our organizations. And then second, let's see if the chat box is functioning. Please type in from what country are you joining us this morning. Okay, let me see the chat box. Yes, please type in. Oh, okay. There is someone from Ghana. from the Philippines. It's so fast. From London. Oh, hello, Faisa. Timor-Leste, Cambodia, Japan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, India. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Maya Cortina. I'm the Education Out Loud Coordinator of ASBE, and I will be moderating this dialogue together with my colleague, Enam, who is a Capacity Support and Advocacy Advisor of ASBE. Enam, greet everyone, please.
Hello, good morning. I'm Enamul Haq from Bangladesh. I work for ASBE as Capacity Support and Advocacy Advisor. So today is really an important day, last day of the GAWE campaign. And on this day, we, along with GC and Interagency Network for Education and Emergencies, are holding this workshop or webinar together. Maya, over to you.
Okay, our dialogue for today is in two parts. The first part is a session discussing the education challenges in education in emergencies at the global and the Asia Pacific level. And then on the second part, we will discuss the sustainable solutions. So for the first part, I will turn it over to Enam, who will be moderating. Thank you, Enam.
Thank you, Maya. In this first part, we'll look into the global and regional challenges in education and emergencies, and we have four speakers. So first of all, we'd like to invite Grant, the Global Coordinator for Global Campaign for Education, to share some of the global EIE challenges and share.
Enam,
Yeah.
Enam, I think we have our ASBE President Peter to give us
Sorry,
the welcome remarks first.
sorry. Sorry. Before going to Grant, would like to invite as the president, Peter Clinton, to welcome us, welcome the participants. Peter, over to you.
Kia ora tālofa lava. Thank you to you, May and Nam, for preparing this space for us to come together as a regional and global community of educators to discuss this very important topic of education and emergencies. I'm going to depart from our traditional sort of opening and welcoming, and I'm going to give you 1 minute wherever you are sitting, whether you are in your office space or whether you are at home, to just go and find something that is very precious to you in your office or your home, that is very important to you. And so I'm just going to give you 1 minute now to do that. Don't worry, I won't be asking you to share about it because we don't have all the time in the world for that conversation. But just, yes, the objective is to find one thing in your office or in your home that is very important and precious to you, and just bring it back to where you are sitting and hold that there. So I'm going to just ask you to do that. That's 1 minute. I'm going to be very strict because I've only been given so much time, but please, 1 minute to go and do that. So get up from your desk, go and find that one very special thing to you from your home or your office. So please take that 1 minute. And now we're down to 40 seconds. So 40 seconds. You now have 20 seconds. Ten more seconds. Ko te pute more te weu te ake te rā, ko te wānui te kune te kore te pō. Sitting behind me on my background is the Southern Cross, what we call Matariki, and it is named different things across the globe, especially in the Pacific region. This here, or the Southern Cross stars, guided my peoples across the Pacific Ocean, using our own knowledge and understanding of the world, and using these stars, it helped us navigate the world. That little song that I sang just then speaks to the Māori, who are the indigenous peoples of our country here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, in creation story. And in very basic terms, it starts off with nothing, turns into a seed, that seed turns into a plant, that plant then turns into a flower, the flower bears fruit. We eat of the fruit, and then the seed from the fruit goes back into the ground, and that is the cycle, the creation story of our individual lives as well as of our world. So what happens when that is disrupted? What happens when the seed is no longer able to access water? What happens when that plant is not exposed to the sun? What happens when the fruit from the flower is not being gathered so that that seed can return into the ground? This is the challenge that we are talking about in regards to education and emergencies, that sudden disruption of what our way of living is. I asked you to go and get something. I did this before, and I don't know if you can see it, but well, it's very difficult to use it on Zoom. But what I went and got was a photo of my family. When the Christchurch earthquakes occurred in New Zealand in 2011, many things happened. Many things happened in regards to people passed away. Many things happened in regards to lives were disrupted. Many things happened in regards to institutions and establishments that were there to provide for our peoples were no longer able to do that. But one thing I clearly remember during that earthquake was my mom and I getting ready to leave the house because we were worried about a tsunami, because I live on the ocean side. And the first thing my mom wanted to get were photo albums. The first thing she wanted to go get were the memories of her family and the memories that she had built. And it made me think about the fact that often when we are living in our lives, we are surrounded by all the things that make us our identity. But when these challenges occur, whether they be natural disasters or conflict in across our countries, that sudden disruption of the things that make us who we are. And so I just wanted to give that little example. If you felt it was very quick to try and find something, if you felt it very sudden to be asked to go look for something and bring it back to your desk, imagine those people across the world who are suddenly faced with these natural disasters, these sudden disruptions to their lives, and trying to think about what they need. And also because as we have this conversation, we're going to hear from some amazing speakers. I thank all the speakers that have prepared their notes for today and their presentations, who are actually sharing from their own lived experience of emergencies. I want you to have that next to your desk to think about what it actually means to have things happening to your family and yourself. I know many of us come with lived experience, but it's always also important to remember it is not just about resourcing for our physical needs, it is about identity. And especially for our children and young people who don't get to make choices in emergencies, and that sudden disruption to family. And so I especially acknowledge our presenters from Vanuatu, Shirley, and from Myanmar and Thailand, Miss, I mean, sorry, Sai, um, because these are things that have happened very recently for them and their communities. And so, Mingalaba, hello, Talofa, to all the peoples who are currently facing emergencies and that disruption to their identity and to their families. Education and emergencies is vital, not just for our ongoing provision to our peoples, but in regards to the ongoing identity of our communities, our villages. And so I often think about education, not just the provision to peoples, but also their participation in the rebuilding of their identity, their homes, and their communities. So again, I acknowledge our amazing speakers, including Shirley and Sai, who have prepared their notes for today, and all the other speakers who are bringing of their lived experience and their skills and professions today. So I welcome you again on behalf of our SBAY teams to this conversation. And yes, there will be some difficult and challenging things that we need to discuss. But one thing that is beautiful about what we are doing today is that we're not just talking about now, we're not just talking about the past, but just as my peoples and many peoples use the stars to navigate the ocean, to ensure there was ongoing sustainability for the identities of our villages and communities, we are doing that here right now as well. And so thank you again for joining us. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our SBAY team and their colleagues and partners from other organizations for bringing us together to have this very beautiful yet challenging discussion about how we ensure education in emergencies is available for today and into the future. So greetings and thank you.
Thank you, Peter Clinton. It was really touchy, and you highlight the issue of people and planet during your welcome remarks, and how it affects us, and how we get prepared, and how policy should be. So with those, as Maya said, we have two part of the conversation. The first part is about global and regional challenges, and second part is sustainable AI solutions. So in first part, we have three speakers. So we'll first listen from Grant, Global Coordinator of Global Campaign for Education. So Grant, would like to request you to share your thoughts. Would like to request you to share your thoughts about the global EIE challenges and linking it with our GAWE 2025 campaigns. Grant, over to you.
Thank you so much, Enam, and greetings to all. And thanks so much, Peter, for such a touching, opening. As Peter was speaking, it came to my mind that, in many times when we talk about these issues, especially in education, in emergencies, what is lost at times is that we're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with people's futures. We're dealing with people's livelihoods. And in many cases, because the world would like to classify things into thematics, and other issues, these things are easily pushed into thematic, discussions. But technically, what we are talking about human beings. We're talking about people's futures. And we're talking of the future for the world as a whole. And this is what this campaign is all about, that we have to have that in mind. So Peter really just brought that campaign to where it should sit, as the Global Action Week for this year, when we are talking of education in emergencies. There are a lot of issues which I think, Peter has ably, explained in terms of, what is happening within the global structures, the disasters, the conflict that, each and every day we hear of a particular war that is starting. We all see what is happening in many countries. We all see what is happening in Gaza, for example, where, the whole strip is completely wiped out. The education infrastructure destroyed. There's no education at all. Things will have to be built again. And it is not necessarily just Gaza alone. When you go to Africa, when you go to Asia, when you go to Latin America, it is the same situation. So we are seeing really a rapid destruction of education infrastructure that is actually being destroyed by man-made actions. These are not disasters. In many cases, these are man-made actions. And in addition to that, then when you add the disasters, the earthquakes and the floods, the tsunamis and all of that, you see that we are living in many parts or in many aspects. Most of our education systems are in education in emergencies as we speak. That is why it is so important, for us as a movement that we come together, we rally around all our members across the world so that we can all focus on this. We can bring light to this issue so that EIE issues are not necessarily things that are built within humanitarian issues, but that, we keep on, pushing our governments to advocate processes and systems that will help to create resilient systems that can cope all these challenges that, we are going around. When you look at, how the global EIE governance is structured, you see that, it still maintains some elements of the old systems of colonialism. When, we look at the global north supporting the global south. This is the way the EIE is structured, because in many cases, it is still built under humanitarian. And when we hear humanitarian assistance, many of us would think of UNICEF, UNESCO, and all these UN structures that supports this. But that's not the way it is supposed to be done that way. We have to come now to a place where we begin to unpack this, because EIE is built within this broader humanitarian. It is not being given the right attention or the right amount of funding that is required. And that is why in one of the calls that we're making in this GAWE is that, there has to be resources earmarked for EIE work. When you look at, how much is being provided, across the world to support emergencies, only 3% of that amount is going towards EIE work. But we all have been saying that education is an answer to many of these global issues that, we have. Then why is that, we are allocating the least amount to what is perceived to be the solution to the answer? So we really have to ask for our governments to really push more resources towards this. At the moment, as we speak, there are very less donors that are supporting EIE work. Before the US did what they did, it was the US, it was Germany, and some few others. Only less than 5 donors that are really supporting EIE work. Many of them, they are putting their money towards humanitarian actions that related to housing, food, and people, and all of that, but not directly to EIE work. As we speak, German government is the only largest donor that is supporting more of what we call ECW, the education cannot work, the work that ECW is undertaking. So we can see that, there is very less resources, but emergencies are coming in each and every day. So we have to ensure that, there is a sustainable funding that goes towards all of this. We were all so happy when we all attended the COP meetings, when they pledged billions of dollars, but today no one can account where is that 100 billion, money. We were talking of the fund that, global South countries were going to get in order to support them. That money is not there. What does that tell us? That tells us that, we need to go back to our own governments and say we cannot rely on foreign aid to support our own issues. We have to really push our governments to bring more resources into EIE-related work. For me, what this characterizes is this, that we can no longer be dependent on ODA to support EIE work. There has to be a national level efforts to undertake that. Otherwise, we'll all be sitting and we'll all be discussing these matters, but there is nothing that will be done. So we really have to ask our own regional structures. We have to ask our national governments to really put enough resources towards this, so that there is more funds on the table. Because without the funding, there's nothing that can be done. So governments, when we talk of increasing budgets in education, we really have also to be looking at how can we also push government to increase the funding that they are allocating towards EIE work. And also, secondly, the other part that creates a bit of a challenge to the global structures or to the governance of EIE work is that many of the institutions that are managing or governing this work are all global north. There's nothing wrong in being global north, but many of them are there. Like when you talk of the Geneva hub for EIE, when you talk of ECW, when you talk of many of these institutions are there, meaning that in many cases, there is no localization of the work of EIE across. In many cases, we are seeing that, it's just, top down, because it comes with the money, so here's the money, you do this. So the solutions themselves that, we are trying to imply, be it in climate, be it, in other emergencies, in many cases, they are not locally based. So we really have to change all of this thinking so that, we are able to bring local solutions to the issues that are there. Because if we don't do that, then it will become really a bit of a problem for us. We'll continue to be talking about this, but we have to ensure that in this GAWE, and this is what we're doing as GCE, engaging with all of these global actors. Say you have to localize your work. You have to allow civil society to be part of this. And thirdly, there's also the issue that when you look at EIE work, if I bring all of this now to the national level, you see that the spaces that exist are not the same, the legs that we know about, the local education groups and the others. There are different structures that exist, in these spaces. I think some of the colleagues in ASBE, Maya, and I can't remember who attended, the meeting that we had organized in Addis, where we brought Save the Children and others, where we talked about all these issues. To say, when it is not clear as to how should national coalitions, how can civil society meaningfully engage into EIE work at a national level? Because there are these educational cluster groups that are coordinated by NGOs, and it's sometimes very difficult to do. So we really have to find our spaces in that. And as GCE, we're so much interested to see that, many members of GCE are beginning to get an interest into this, and we are trying to find information and data that would help members to really access EIE spaces at a national level. We need to do that. We need to localize the work. We need to push our governments to put more resources into EIE work. And we have to decolonize the whole space. And this one, the whole humanitarian process has to be completely decolonized. Just as we had decolonizing education financing campaign last year, we have to decolonize EIE work. It's not a top-down approach. We have to ensure that the people that are in those issues or in those problems or facing those challenges are also able to provide, their own responses. Lastly, we are engaging quite extensively with Education Cannot Wait. It's one of those difficult spaces for us to navigate, but we are pushing each and every day to ensure that the voices of the Global South is integrated into the work of ECW. We have got two representatives that are sitting there. That is Rifat, our president, but also Odinakache, who is from Nigeria. But in many cases, their meetings are these one-day meeting, and you have got 2 minutes to input and all of that, which becomes really difficult because we believe that most of those that should be providing inputs into that space should be the people that are living in these realities. Just as Peter said, that we all come with our own lived realities of how we have been impacted by emergencies and how this has impacted our education systems and in our different countries. So we are really pushing to do this. Let's take this GAWE this year to really unpack this. Let's find in our own countries how EIE work is being governed so that we can use the GCE language that we always use, that we want the global processes, the global policy conversations to be informed by the national lived realities of the people. Remember, we're not just dealing with a thematic issue, we're dealing with human lives. And that's what should be at the center of all of this. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for inviting me. Looking forward to engaging with you in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant, for such a wonderful presentation and highlighting some of the challenges related to people's livelihood, education, and some of the international mechanism, and also highlighting the issue of ODA and other mechanism, ECW and other mechanism for education financing during emergency. And you also highlight the national investment, increased national investment and global partnership. So with the global reflection, we'd like to go to the regional spaces. So at this point, I would like to invite Rene Raya, our colleague and policy advocacy coordinator and lead policy analyst of ASBE, to share his thoughts about EIE challenges in the Asia Pacific region. Rene, you have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Enam, and good day, everyone. So let me now walk you through the context of Asia and the Pacific. Well, actually, we live in a region that has the largest population, 4.2 billion people, and that is accounting for 60% of the world's total. So the next slide actually enumerates some of the basic profile of our region. It has also the largest landmass, sitting on the world's biggest oceans. We are rich in natural resources and host to some of the most biodiverse areas globally. It is also home to the most diverse marine ecosystem on our planet. And over the last several decades, Asia Pacific has been the most dynamic economic region, dating back to the 1980s and even up until now. COVID pandemic, we were able to survive and recover, but of course with a number of reluctance in terms of really recovering from what we have before. And our region also, dominates the top ranks of most global competitive exams. Example would be PISA, but there are others where, countries in our region dominates the top ranks. And as a people and as a community, we are socially active, resilient, caring, and a strong sense of community and solidarity. And of course, yes, we are also among the world's happiest people, crisis or no crisis. So these, I believe, are some of the really strong positive attributes of our countries and our people, the resiliency and the determinism to overcome challenges, to survive, rebuild, and move forward, especially in times of crisis and emergencies. But of course, yes, there are vulnerabilities that we confront and should overcome. Our region hosts half of the world's poorest people, 1.14 billion people in all, in poverty. We are also, we have also some of the most congested and densely populated cities, and that includes the world's biggest urban slums. Our region also hosts the largest concentration of youth and adult illiterates, with increasing out of school and joblessness among the youth. That's about 45% of the world's total. So this refers to the NEET, of which we have been actively involved in. NEET means not in education, not in employment, and not in training, and very, critical, especially for the youth. Yes, we live in this region with extreme inequality. I think UNESCAP and others monitoring agencies have reported increasing inequality, especially during the pandemic and the aftermath. And these are measured by the Gini coefficient and, the disparity between the richest and the poorest among our people. Approximately 1.3 billion people in our region work in the informal sector and without social protection. And this can really be a big challenge for individuals and families, in the event of emergencies and crises. So at the macro level, we face declining ODA, as mentioned by Grant, mounting debts, and creeping inflation in our midst. There are a few of our countries that are already reneging and in default. So every year, hundreds of billions of dollars are lost to tax abuse and illicit funding. So that really shrinks our fiscal space, impacts on our essential public services. We have, low budget for key public services, education, especially health, humanitarian support, and climate, among others. So going on, all these factors make our region and our people vulnerable to hazards. And indeed, we face multiple layers of natural hazards in our region. So we are exposed. We confront these natural hazards, the Pacific Ring on fire, the typhoon belt, the Pacific typhoon belt, and the Indian Ocean cyclone, and climate-related hazards, and desertification. Yeah, I got across this when I was in Mongolia, and telling me that this is a major issue that they want to confront. And this is not only in Mongolia, but also in parts of Central Asia, in India, Pakistan, Iran, and even in Afghanistan. And, the occurrence of hazards actually translate into disasters of intense magnitude, and that depends on the vulnerabilities and the limited capacities of countries, of communities, and people. And so that's really a call for building our capacities. So we all know that Asia Pacific is the most disaster-prone region globally. Nearly 45% of disasters occur in our region, and weather disturbances have become more intense, more frequent in the last few years, in the last decade, and over 75% of the population is affected in this region. So what is actually ironic is that in times of emergencies and in times of displacements, schools are used as evacuation centers. And so, they say education can wait, or should wait, because we need the schools in order to, evacuate those who have been affected by disasters and even conflicts. And that's the situation we experience in the Philippines, and I believe in some other countries. So actually, many of the disasters are human-induced. And Grant spoke about that, some of the biggest disasters and crises that we have are human-induced, even climate, because of neglect, because of inattention, because of industry, and even governments being part of those that pollute and cause environmental degradation, are actually human and state-induced. So Asia Pacific hosts some of the most also some of the most vicious and protracted conflicts and repressive regimes. It is home to 1/4 of the world's conflicts and protracted crises. The region is also witnessing rising militarism as geopolitical tensions escalate. Several countries are also experiencing shrinking civic space. And these are, these conflicts are human-induced disasters that cause immeasurable, problems and challenges for people, which affects basic social services, especially education. And I remember when martial law was declared in the Philippines many decades ago, the education sector was one of the most penalized sectors. And that is in terms of budget cuts, in terms of surveillance, in terms of attacks. And I think Maya and Thea and probably Robbie have lived through those dangerous times. And probably, state authorities may be right, because schools, CLCs, or community learning centers, learning communities, are actually bastions for building capacities, for building social awareness, and for civic action. and so they become prime targets, as what you have in Myanmar, what you have in Afghanistan, and schools are continuing being attacked in Palestine and some of the other conflict areas, not only in Asia Pacific, but many of the developing countries. And I should say that, the strong sense of community, as I mentioned before, and solidarity is, I think, one of the things that we should strengthen among our people, because we should be able to be helping ourselves in the same way that, we have done so in previous times when there are disasters, when there are conflicts, when there are issues related to violations of human rights. We as a people come together and, care and express our intense solidarity for them. So I should end that without peace and political stability, the right to education, and SDG 4, and, coping and overcoming challenges of crisis events and emergencies cannot be achieved. Thank you. And over to you, Anna.
Thank you, Rene, for very insightful and thought-provoking interventions. And you have mentioned a lot of statistics that is very important for our discussion and way forward. Without further, I'd like to invite Wang Asai, Executive Council Member of SBA and Director, Thinking Classroom Foundation, to share her thoughts about the education challenges in multi-layered crises and emergencies, particularly in Myanmar. Asai, you have about 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me, and then good to see you all, colleagues and friends. So aside from Myanmar, I would like to share some of the what as a civil society and the local grassroots organization, what we are responding to ensure right to education. Thank you, Enam, for introduction. So let me share some of the slides. So my presentation will be mostly pictures in education in emergency. So I'm from Myanmar, and then now we located in Thailand because of political security, but we have been providing education as to respond EIE in the local level. So recently happened in earthquake, because of earthquake and prolonged conflict, political instability. There are more than 1/3 of our population are in humanitarian crisis, and they need humanitarian aid. So in the 1/3 of population, there are over 6 million children are involved. Currently, the military state administrative council is weaponizing and criminalization of humanitarian acts. What we mean is that all the acts that comes from international community, as a civil society organization, we have to advocate to get more support from international community. But in the reality, in the ground, is the military is using those humanitarian acts to weaponize, to make airstrike to schools, to public spaces. Especially this airstrike happens in the nighttime while people are sleeping. So hundreds of people and tens of people every day, they have been, suffer from running for life, and also a lot of people, hundreds of people, are being bombed by the airstrikes. And then also the blocking of aids through civil society organization, local people are also criminalized, because the military, they arrest people without getting any legal or document permission from the military. They will be it's imprisonment or arrest of the humanitarian workers it's happening, and also the schools and the learning spaces are being bombed at any time, every day. So it's and the education is a very under attack, and millions of children, they do not have access to education. So education, and then internet, and the electricity being cut out. So a lot of, because of the security issue, we provide education trainings or school program through internet. There are Starlink and other local telecom that operating, but often cut off the access to internet and also electricity. So there are more than 200 or nearly 200 schools are being bombed until now. So from the other, like outside of the military or the SAC government, there are 1 million children are also being provided education by the grassroots organization or local community-based education, we call it. So these are recently on the April 25th this year, airstrike in Karen State. So just before 24 or so, there was an airstrike. These are the school being bombed on the 24th. And these are also these are in the middle Burma. So the conflict is happening all over the country. So they are using airstrike, and these international aid money are being buy fuel and weapons to drop to do airstrikes in across the country. This is on November last year. These are the schools being bombed under attack. So this is also just recently on the 24th, or no, yeah, it was 24th of May. I was providing a teacher training in the Middle Burma in conflict area, and then suddenly in the middle of the training, they have to run away because the airstrikes come, and then they have to flee to the bomb shelter area. So it's heartbreaking. We want to provide education, and then the trainings for teachers to adapt curriculum to provide a quality education in the education in emergency, but they have to, the teacher trainer being distracted, and they have to run for their life. This is also, we provide just recently ongoing teacher training after, please excuse me, after the training, after this dialogue, this talk, I have to leave because I still have to provide teacher training in those education in emergency area. This is ongoing teacher training, and one of the threat, if there's a drone that coming from the military, if there is people gather in the forest, it likely to be bombed. So they have to shift, they have to move from one place to another place to get the teacher training. This is a learning space in the education in emergency. They have to, all over country, they have to run from one forest to another forest if the drone comes from the inspection, or they have a camera, the operation, so they have to unstable of moving from one place to the another safer place to get education. This some of the pictures from learning spaces in the safe place. So in the from our national level, in local level, we collaborate, or we mobilize with the local parents teachers, and also the religious leaders, churches, monastery, to provide education. And also one of the adaptation and flexible of learning that we are doing is like multi-grade teaching. And also adaptation of the curriculum. We cannot teach when holding like pencil and books, writing proper learning space. There is no, it's not possible to learn like 9 to 3 p.m. So we have to adapt the time for if the airstrike coming likely to happen in the morning or in the afternoon. So they have only a few hours, 2 hours to maximum 3 hours of learning in the ground in the safe space. And they have to multi-grade teaching, which means like 6 to 8 grade, and then 2 teachers, volunteer teachers. They have to immediately they like scale competency from what available resources they have, mostly like verbal discussion, teaching. If there's a space for writing, we can write. So that kind of like learning and building resilience for teachers through us is like we provide teacher training, and we like sending our solidarities and encouragement, and meeting often, update each other, sharing information about what is happening in their areas. And I would like to call we would like to call international community to give pressure on the military to not to weaponize and not to criminalize humanitarian aids, and also especially in education. So education is mostly the target for, and then IDP camps. People are fleeing away in the forest, and it's likely to be most vulnerable to be bombed, and then the hospitals are being bombed. So this kind of the international pressure that we need, and also the reality in the ground is we have to recruit teachers, even though they are the young people are grade 7, grade 8, grade 9. We have to adapt teacher training curriculum to be to meet the needs, and to meet the level of the volunteer teachers in local level. We also need to, this is a good platform for global and regional platform to raise our voices and then to raise our concern. And we need more support and more pressure to achieve right to education through political stability and peace, restoring the democracy in the country. So I will have some last picture. This is how we provide the teacher training at the moment. In our local teachers, they have gathered at the safer space, and then whatever the space is available, mainly it's a safe space to learn. And then sometimes even the middle of the training, they have to run for their life. These are mostly the parents and young people from the villages, but they have to become teachers in the EIE situation. So they need the trainings. We provide the trainings through how to adapt the curriculum, and in the 2 hours, 3 hours in a day, to have education access for children. This is also, I would like to highlight how difficulties in providing teacher training in EIE is one mobile gadget, one device they have to attend by 10 people. So this is there's a situation because they don't have a projector, they don't have internet, limited resources, electricity. They use solar battery charger to charge the mobile device. So, but we are happy that to collaborate with this local community-based learning center. There's no government school exists anymore. There is no government school. So the young people and parents, and we also advocate that in any kind of situation, even though there are difficulty faced and education is under attack, we have to find a way to provide education for every children as much as possible. So I think that's all from now. From me, thank you so much for your attention and your solidarity. Thank you so much, and
Yeah, thank you, Asaid, for sharing some critical insight at the country level. We understand how difficult situation Myanmar is going on in terms of protecting the right to education. So, as civil society, we are trying to play our role. From this three presentation, we try to get a global overview, then Asia Pacific regional overview, and also a country level, country specific critical insights. So now we'd like to open the floor for sub-regional reflection. So when we say sub-regional, it's not really the sub-regional. We'd like to listen the country context representing different sub-region of ASBE. So in this, we had around 20 minutes, but we understand we are running out of time, so we need to shorten it 7 to 8 minutes. So I'd like to go around one round from each of the region. First of all, we'd like to invite Rashida Chaudhuri from Bangladesh, representing the South Asia. Rashida, would like to listen from you, considering your long experience in education and listening to this presentation. Would you share some of your critical insights? Over to you, Appa.
Thank you. Thank you, Anam. Good morning to everybody. Good afternoon. And greetings to everyone from Bangladesh. And after all these powerful speakers, I don't think I need to say anything more, because these are the stark reminders how our kids, teachers, parents, and communities have been suffering, and how we could get them out of it. But it's $1 million question. So there are disasters or all these emergencies, both climate-induced and man-made. Who creates? And that's another big question. Who creates those? Who are those powerful factors or powerful actors that who have been creating this for us, and how we are going to mitigate those challenges? This is $1 million question. But I was watching Asai's presentation, thinking of those children in jungles, schools, and then comparing this, just thinking to a school in the global north, how privileged those kids are. But how could we help our kids? We don't want our kids to be privileged, but to have their right to education, the SDG 4, and how education in emergencies. So from the national context, how could we help? So one thing that is also coming in from all the presentations, from all our deliberations before and after, all these, even from last year's ASBE General Assembly, that all we have to have the national level, realities, ground level realities, just as I was presented, realities, and how could we help at the national level from the regional, players, be it government or civil society. But at the national level, it's not only the emergencies. Everywhere, I suppose, in the world, civil society, the democratic space has been shrinking like anything. So how much we could do, that's another question. But we can't stop at the national level. I suppose Bangladesh has been facing, any new and more challenges after the mass uprising that has toppled the authoritarian regime. But now that we have these openings are there for civil society to speak out, to go out, to demonstrate, etc. So the space is there. But who is using or abusing those space? This is becoming another question at our national level. But despite that, I will just finish by saying that because of our long-standing campaign, particularly on education must not be deprioritized, and we have learned so much from global campaign and ASPE that our resource mobilization, particularly for education, to hold our governments accountable. Because of our long campaign, the government has been rethinking, and it has opened, our new government interim, it has opened avenues to discuss with, about the Rohingya refugees, but about the climate-induced ones. Our new budget is coming. So there has been campaigns from different organizations and civil society groups, but at least three major things we have achieved in the recent declaration by the government. One is increasing the stipend, particularly for girls all over Bangladesh in mainstream schools. We have been demanding it because of the inflation. It is now being adjusted to inflation. The other one is midday meal. So midday meal government has committed, and it's being introduced. Soon it will be coming up. It has been approved by our National Economic Council. The other one is the social safety net program. It is being extended to cover climate-induced and disaster-induced, be it man-made or anything, to extend it to those we call, what we say, leaving no one behind, particularly the underprivileged groups in different areas. So national level, we have been working in one side, but the other side is coming up, new emerging challenges coming up, particularly different obscurantist groups, I should say. But there are no reasons for us to give up. We have to continue our struggle, our movement, so that education in emergencies and in any other places, education can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Appa. Thank you so much. We saw Rubber from Central Asia was there. Rubber, are you here? If not, anyone from Central Asia? Okay. If no, may we move to, excuse me, East Asia. Anyone from East Asia?
Okay, may I?
Sure.
I'm Takafumi Miyake from Japan. Just to add what Rene has mentioned regarding the protecting school from attack, I'd like to reiterate the importance of the Safe School Declaration, which is endorsed by 121 countries right now. But Japan is the only country among G7 member states which has not endorsed the Safe School Declaration. This is not a legal binding document, but it is important to refrain countries from attacking schools, and also refrain from the military use of school facilities, logistically and also military. So Japanese coalition is making efforts to lobby the member of the parliament, also the Japanese government, to endorse this Safe School Declaration as soon as possible. in the framework of this year's Global Action Week for education. Thank you.
Thank you, Taka. May we now move to East Asia, Southeast Asia. Anyone from Southeast Asia? No. Anyone from South Pacific? Yeah, Shirley.
Could I say something?
Yeah. After
Yes,
Shirley.
I think Jack will be presenting, and so maybe may I provide this opportunity to Jack. I think he has prepared presentation.
Thank you. As Shelley has already introduced myself, Jack Callisto.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you show my presentation now?
May I intervene? Jack, we will have your presentation in the part 2 of our program. Yes.
This is for just oral intervention for 1 or 2 minutes to reflect on what we have heard from 3 presentation and linking it to our country context. So if you have anything.
So I'll do my presentation second part. Is that correct?
Okay, so I can share some maybe reflection. So I guess all the presentation are kind of like related to the Pacific or for Vanuatu for my case. The issue of education must continue, or maybe education in emergency, continue learning is very important for Vanuatu. In the last 3 years, we have faced a twin cyclone of Category 5 as well as a magnitude earthquake of 7.4. And I can see more and more there were issues around displacement or children being able to continue learning, especially during those emergency, which I heard from other presenters as well. So in a country like the Pacific, we have faced a lot of disaster. Looking into education in emergency, the policies, it's very crucial, especially in the work of continued learning in the Pacific. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So we'd like to open for all other participants. So Kaji Farooq Ahmed sir, you wanted to say something. Please be brief in 1 or 2 minutes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Inam. Actually, this time for Bangladesh, for elderly people like me, is a bit not very comfortable because it's very morning. I couldn't attend the program all through. Anyway, I've got 2 points. Number 1, active participation in decision-making and execution in education emergency of the teachers and the parents. Number 2, coordination in the programs from the top to the bottom. We lack it. And third point, the handicapped or children, the problems they face during emergency, particularly in education programs, and the question of the third gender. I think these are the things which we should take note of and make the decisions and recommendations published not only in English, but arrangements should be made to circulate, translate the decisions and recommendations of education emergency in the national languages of all the countries, particularly in I would refer to my country, Bangladesh. This is such an important thing, important program, education emergency, which is virtually speaking is very much undermined and underestimated and not properly taken into account by the stakeholders. So coordination, cohesion, and circulation of the recommendations are very vital. Involvement, I would repeat again, of parents, teachers, their organized activities, and their involvement in the decision-making process. Decisions are imposed. So these are the things I think we should take note of it. Thank you very much, Anna.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So we can take one more intervention. Is there anybody from Central Asia or anyone beyond the Asia Pacific region who would like to speak? Yes, Zarina. Oh. Please go ahead. You need to unmute.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes. Please go ahead.
My name is Zarina. I'm from Tajikistan and like to share about the situation of education in emergency in Tajikistan. Of course, in Tajikistan, it is some different challenges, and usually it is common natural disasters, floods, landslides, and earthquakes, especially during the spring time. Disrupt the learning process and school attendance. A significant portion of the population is at risk from seismic activities. About 88% of children living in areas of high to very high seismic hazard. And the situation is particularly difficult in mountains area where school often like electricity and heating during the winter months. And the lack of basic infrastructure such as electricity, safe drinking water, and sanitation facilities makes the learning environment unsafe and unsuitable for children, especially for girls. Girls face additional barriers to education. Only 64% of girls transitioning from lower to upper secondary education, compared to 86% of boys. And for last academic year, only 16% of schools in Tajikistan, this is another issue, have internet access, posing challenges for digital learning initiatives. In addition, another issue that the parental migration often forces some children to drop out of school to work and support their families. But despite these challenges, Tajikistan is moving forward, improving under the National Education Development Strategy to 2030 and the disaster risk reduction strategy. The country has committed to meeting international standards. This includes the creation of safe, inclusive, disaster-resilient schools, effective risk management, and teaching children a culture of safety and preparedness. The Sendai framework and the Global Comprehensive School Safety Framework are being implemented through practical measures, strengthening school infrastructure, training teachers, and involving local communities and children in decision-making processes. UNICEF and World Bank is actively supporting these efforts. Importantly, I think the children are not only being protected, but are also engaged as active participants in creating a safe and resilient educational environment. So this is from my side, from Tajikistan.
Thank you so much for bringing such critical issues, particularly the earthquake and other issues. So we need to close the part one now. But before that, I'd like to invite Afghanistan, because Afghanistan cannot participate in many of the conferences. If anyone from Afghanistan, you can have 1 minute. Participants from Afghanistan? No. Okay. So would like to wrap up the first session here, close the first session here, looking at the running out of time. We don't want to synthesize those. Maybe in the next session, many of the issues will be come up as way forward and sustainable solutions. So would like to close the session one, and would like to go to session two. Before that, can you have a group photograph? For that, can we open our camera?
Okay, may request everyone.
So everybody, we had a very, heavy discussion, but I guess there were some glimpses of hope with the Thinking Classroom Foundation in Myanmar doing good work even in a state of war and the vicious attacks of the military regime. So maybe while we are turning on our cameras and waiting for everybody, please clench your fists. Please clench your fists and open. This is a stress reliever. Gather all your stress and then release. Okay. So now, are we ready, buds, for the photo session?
Okay, everyone.
Please open your cameras.
Yes, we have 3 pages.
Oh, we have a group from the ENET Philippines. It's so good to see your faces. Hello. There are 6 of them in one frame. Okay, buds, please give us the signal.
Okay, everyone. 1, 2, 3, smile. Keep on smiling because we have 3 pages. Next page. 1, 2, 3, smile. One more page. 1, 2, 3, and smile. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Birds. So we'd like to hand it over to Maya for the next session. And our chat box is open. Who could not speak, please feel free to write your reflection or comment, if any. Maya, over to you.
Thank you, Enam. Again, it's now noon time. It's the tanghali, it's lunchtime in the Philippines, but we still have the best part. I think this is the more problematic part because we are now thinking of solutions. So, it's not problematic. It's that the more hopeful part. So for this part two, we are looking at sustainable solutions to ensure that the right to education is delivered in the context of emergencies. And for this, we have 5 panelists. The first panelist is Ms. Faisa Hassan. She's the director of the Interagency Network for Education in Emergencies, and she will speak about strengthening data and evidence on EIE. Over to you, Faisa. You have 7 minutes.
Hi, good afternoon. It's 5 a.m. here, so I will definitely not speak for more than 7 minutes. It's a pleasure to be with you all, and thank you to ASPE, GCE, and everyone else who continues to push education up the agenda. I think we all agree education is life-saving. in conflict zones, in disaster-affected areas, and for displaced children and youth. It offers more than learning. It offers stability, protection, and a sense of normalcy. But for education to be effective in these contexts, we do need to base decisions on reliable, timely, and contextually relevant data. Because what we measure and how we measure it shapes what gets funded, what gets prioritized, and what gets delivered. And at INEE, we believe that data systems in crisis contexts must be fit for purpose. That means they must be rapid enough to inform immediate response planning. They must be flexible to adapt to rapidly changing conditions on the ground. And they must be inclusive in design, recognizing both the value of formal and non-formal sources of data. And these data systems should be grounded in local realities, not just driven by external indicators or donor templates. And they should reflect, community-defined education outcomes, not just access or enrollment rates. And they have to center the people closest to the crisis, not just as data subjects, but as key knowledge holders and decision makers. And what this means in practice is investing in local data infrastructure and capacities. It means prioritizing disaggregated and intersectional data. It means integrating education data with humanitarian coordination systems. And it also means closing the feedback loop because data should not only be extracted from communities, but returned in accessible formats so it can actually drive real visible change and rebuild trust. I'll end by saying that we don't need perfect data to act, but we do need shared, transparent, and action-oriented data. Data that empowers communities and puts learners at the center of our systems. And I think that's also what would make our advocacy much stronger. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Faisa. That was very short but sweet and very substantive. We have recorded it, so we will be able to, go back to it and really savor what you have just discussed on how we can strengthen data and evidence on EIE. Because after all, without evidence, we have no right to speak. So now we move on to Mr. Takafumi Miyake, or Taka. He's part of the Executive Council of ASBE, and he's also the Secretary General of the Japan NGO Network for Education, to speak about adult learning and education in context of emergencies and fragility. Over to you, Taka.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. Happy to. Due to we are pressed with time, so I jump to the my conclusion part regarding the adult learning and education in emergencies with the challenges and lessons learned. I'd like to make 2 points. One is unfortunately, low priority is given to ALE, adult learning and education, and education emergency. Oh my God. I don't know why. It's stuck. Let me try again. Sorry. Okay. I hope this is. I hope you're familiar with education cluster, which is country level coordination architecture in humanitarian action. And one of the cluster is education cluster, which is managed by the UNICEF and the Save the Children. And at the moment, there are only 4 countries in this region which where education cluster is activated. They are Myanmar, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. And Oh my God. What should I do? Then let me try again. Sorry. I don't go to the slide mode. Okay. Oh. But no country education cluster strategy have the AIL program or component, which resulted in limited funding to AIL by Education Cannot Wait and Global Partnership for Education. If you look at the ECW portfolio, 80% of their support goes to primary education, 11 goes to secondary, 9 goes to ECCD, but 0% goes to A programs. In terms of GP, GP has been doing have done very good job for the COVID-19 access-related program. But again, the GP program, accelerated funding program in the region have no aid program in the region. So I would like to argue that it is important to incorporate aid programs in country education cluster strategy. So in this regard, the National Education Coalition, our colleagues in the ASBE, has a critical role in incorporating aid in the education cluster strategy. Secondly, the community participation is very important in emergency context. We have to be very rapid, and also we need to think about the nexus. Meaning from humanitarian emergency response to development and also peace building. And we also need to be aware that do no harm principle needs to be ensured. So from our experience, to ensure community participation, the role of the facilitators or the adult learn educators are critically important. And we are familiar with the participatory learning and action or the participatory rapid appraisal methodology and tools, which is effective and useful to ensure community participation in regarding the in education in emergency. Thank you.
Thank you, Taka. I think we missed the pictures, but in the interest of time, I think you did not show the pictures anymore, but I think we will share the presentation, the full presentation of Taka when through the email. So now we go to our third presenter. She is Miss K.A.R. Lakmali. She is the program coordinator of the Coalition for Educational Development, Sri Lanka, and she will give us the youth perspectives in EIE. Lakmali?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Lakmali from Coalition for Education Development. Thank you so much for giving me this valuable opportunity to share our experience regarding the youth advocacy project on education in emergency. Then let me to introduce about our organization, the CED. CED is a network of civil society organization working towards to promote quality education for all in the Sri Lanka. And also we have 60 member organization represent 20 districts in the Sri Lanka, as well as they also represent the various segments youth, women's academia, unions, media, marginalized group, and every groups we are represented. In order to achieve our vision, we do several activities as a capacity building workshop and awareness raising, research studies, advocacy, and everything. We follow our obtaining our vision. And also move the next slide. Actually, I believe access to education is not only a fundamental right, but also life-saving during the times of crisis. As I remember UNESCO data, 324 million school ages children worldwide are affected by the crisis. Now let's focus promoting youth advocacy on the education emergency, our project. Considering the privileged context in the project CED, only focus on the emergency situation, cases the natural disaster, especially flood and landslide. Sri Lanka has developed several policies, action plan the related emergency response by the of the policies were developed after the 2004 tsunami situation. Then I listed some major policies and framework with the relevant stakeholders who has the responsibility to deal with such emergency situation. You can see some of our policy framework acts and regarding the disaster risk reduction. Those points are very important because of the mitigate for the in this situation, and with the support of the other agencies, the Ministry of Education and provincial ministries of the education has developed the provincial level disaster risk reduction plans and school disaster risk reduction plan. In this plan has emphasized the significance of participation, inclusive plan, and a very important point in this Sri Lanka. Move the next slide. However, we observe that these plans have been developed without or inadequate participation of the youth and civil society representatives. According to, we observe the challenges for the youth participation in the education in emergency planning process. Then after we find out some of the challenges in the youth participation in education emergency as limited opportunities in the existing regulation act, drawbacks in implementation, lack of the awareness among the youth, attitudes towards youth participation. According to, we want to minimize the gap. Therefore, CED plan to conduct the thematic and advocacy capacity building work programs. Move the next slide. Then this slide show our main objective of our intervention. Our intervention were raising awareness among the youth and impact of disaster conflict situation on education, introduce the convention standard related to ensure education in the emergencies, including INE standard, improve the knowledge and skill of the youth on effective advocacy strategies, building a youth group who can lobby the relevant authorities to take the necessary action, promote, improve the youth participation in decision making process. Accordingly, CED expect to develop an active youth group with necessary knowledge and skill, lobby to authorities to take the relevant action to ensure the education without interruption. Move the next slide. This is our CED intervention regarding the education in emergency. We paid special attention to minimize the outcomes of the small short-term pilot project. So we selected the most affected province due to the natural disaster. Then we selected the most vulnerable community and identify youth groups. We refer the disaster management report, selected this our study area. because of this is the very vulnerable area. This Sabargama province, you can see another side. I created the map. This map, you can see Kegol and Ratnapura district. These districts are very vulnerable due to the some of the rivers included this area and another monsoon reason affected in this area. Finally, we select the youth group and student group through our member organization. Then after we implemented some of the activities for the achieving education emergency as a conducting capacity building workshop, hosting youth lead advocacy campaign, as well as engaging youth leaders in policy discussion with provincial government. Move the next slide. Those are our outcomes. This project as a develop a youth action teams in two districts, Kegol and Ratnapura, develop a presented youth proposal to authorities, and also social media campaign, develop a own Facebook page for them, and also publishing the article regarding the education emergency, entry point the local policy planning discussion. Move the next slide. There are our lesson learned. This is our involved participation from the affected communities, youth empowerment, those guiding and promoting ownership, negative perception, significance of the collaboration, networking. Then we identify some of the required action, the strength education emergency in the Sri Lanka. Develop and implement national education emergency policy, ensure the school preparedness and resilience plan, strengthen teacher training and support, invest in digital and alternative learning system, improve data collection and early warning system. Finally, we want to sustain the outcomes this short-term project as we advocate the authorities to incorporate climate change education into national education policy framework. Coalition for Education Development will promote education emergency under the activities of the other projects. We will motivate CD member organization to integrate education emergency in their activities. Actually, my presentation is over. Thank you so much listening my presentation.
Thank you very much, Lakmali. It's very good to hear about youth-led and youth-targeted activities having to do with education in emergencies. At this point, I would like to also acknowledge that Elaine has written something in the chat box, and she's hoping and wondering if the cross-sectoral boundaries and definitional differences, including ale, can be less distinctive and so much more permeable in emergencies, that educators can work together to maximize education and learning opportunities, including using cross-sectoral expertise, but also intergenerational place-based strategies. So yes, I think it's an appreciation of the youth advocacies, and also saying that the seniors will be marching with the youth. Okay, now let's move on to our next speaker. He is Mr. Benjamin Bernardino, and we call him Doc June. He's the president of Life Haven Center for Independent Living and part of INET Philippines, and he will be speaking on disability inclusive education in emergencies. Hello, Doc June.
Thank you, Mamaya, and thank you also for this opportunity. Magandang araw sa lahat. That means good day, good morning, good afternoon, maybe good evening, Next slide, please. So the organizer will support me in moving the slide. I have a disability. I'm quadriplegic. So Life Haven is an organization of persons with disabilities based here in the Philippines. We're working on disability inclusion, promotion of inclusion in different thematic sectors and social concerns. And a part of my background is really a bed. I'm taking care of my healing bed sore, so don't be distracted. Now that's out of the way. I'll start with this slide. When delivering education in emergencies, humanitarian workers often face situations where it may be challenging to fully include learners with disabilities in emergency and humanitarian context. Challenging realities don't change legal obligations. Humanitarian organizations still need to make concrete steps towards fully inclusive education in emergencies. Right to education, enjoyment of that right, not temporarily halted during emergencies. So it should be enjoyed by all learners, including learners with disabilities in the affected population. Next slide, please. So my presentation, the aim is to promote disability inclusion. I will not present any project or any activity. So I'll start with the inclusive education part, which I'll go to fast, then the legal framework, and last part, disability inclusive education in emergency. So inclusive education means that education systems are inclusive of all students with and without disabilities from the beginning. So everybody should be put together in a classroom, but it doesn't mean it will not end at putting everybody together, learners with and without disability. It also entails providing support, ensuring accessibility, upskilling of teachers, and maybe recruiting support from volunteers, NGOs, and OPD. So inclusive education means that we don't need special schools, separate classrooms, and programs for students with disabilities. So children with disabilities should always be in mainstream classroom with their peers. You know this already. The learning experience is both education and social development of the learners. And the first basis of the obligation of the state and humanitarian actors to provide inclusive education is the CRPD, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. This is our main basis among other legal frameworks. There are articles there. Article 11 about emergencies, and this was mentioned earlier, neglect and discrimination should not be present even during emergencies. Particular article for education in the UNCRPD is Article 24. Next slide. Next slide, please. So key terms, exclusion. That's where children with disabilities are, like right at the beginning, denied access to education in any form. This denial is in any form, either directly or indirectly. Segregation, learners with disabilities may go to the school or have the educational experience, but in isolation, separate from the mainstream, separate from learners without disability. Integration could look good, but still, there's no mainstreaming here. Okay, the task or the burden is still on the learners with disability, because in integration, support are not provided yet. We're aiming for inclusion, where all students learn together, and inclusive teaching approaches give each learner the support they need. Next slide, please. So I'll just try to follow soon because of the time constraint. Okay, we know of different barriers faced by learners with disabilities. Barriers to access, which prevent children from getting to or enrolling in school. These elements, these barriers, they are interrelated. One may affect the other, or it could result to the next barrier. Okay, so the first one is access, barrier to access. Next is barrier to progression, barrier to learning, the physical barriers of the school. You cannot really get into the school, get into the classroom, if the physical facility or the environment is not physically accessible. Okay, if they don't have accessibility features like ramps, if the doorways are not big enough, okay, to let learners who are using wheelchair to get in, and the other related facilities in the school, particularly the toilets, the comfort room. I don't think you would go to school if you don't if you cannot access the toilets or the comfort room. Attitudinal barriers preventing children from full social inclusion because of stigma and the attitude of this will be difficult for you, so never mind, don't go to school anymore. Okay. There are also institutional barriers like lack of inclusive facilities, not inclusive policies, I mean, that will influence program development. If there are no policies, why would anybody develop programs or activities in a disability inclusive manner? Last one, barrier, lack of resources. This was mentioned earlier. So if you don't have the materials, appropriate technology, the social protection programs that are inclusive or disability specific, it would be very difficult for the household to send the learner with disability to school. And emergency cases, okay, livelihood, money, that's a very big concern. Next slide, please. So the basic key legal instruments, I mentioned the CRPD, Article on Children, Article on Non-Discrimination, and Article 24 on Education. Are all familiar with the SDG goal number 4, quality education? And I will stress here the word inclusive. Inclusive even for learners with disabilities. And the others are the Dakar Framework for Action, the UNCRC, CEDAW, and the Economic and Sociocultural Rights Convention. And holding all of this up there is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Next slide, please. Okay, key ingredients for inclusive education and emergencies. Okay, the whole systems approach, full educational environment, the whole person approach, the support to teachers, upskilling them, respect for and value of diversity, service providers, and diversity of the learners. A learning-friendly environment and for disability inclusion, inclusive, accessible environment, effective transitions from the school to the workplace or employment opportunities, recognition of partnership between service providers, humanitarian actors, in this case, and families and organization of persons with disabilities. And lastly, monitoring. The monitoring process should include the families also and representatives from organization of persons with disabilities. We all have good intentions, but sometimes if you don't have a disability and it's not your concern, you may miss that portion of the monitoring part to check to see if learners with disabilities are really included and are benefiting from the services related to education. Particularly in our case now, education in emergency. Next slide, please. Okay, how to deliver or deliver inclusive education in emergencies. I listed 4 things here. Humanitarian organizations delivering inclusive education in emergencies must ensure that, number 1, learners with disabilities are in mainstream classrooms learning alongside their peers without disability. Putting them all together, that will promote social interaction and social development and understanding of learners with and without disabilities about each other. Number 2, providing reasonable accommodation. This is to accommodate the needs of individual children. Comparing this to accessibility is systemic. Okay, the approach is, the perspective is to provide benefit or access to the maximum number of those who need them. Reasonable accommodation is an individualized approach to ensure that that individual, that one learner with disability, will be able to enjoy the right to education and will be able to attend the process of learning in the educational system or during humanitarian emergencies. Number 3, tools used in the delivery of the work, like needs assessment or planning tools, are based on principles of inclusive education. including learners with disabilities, and previously mentioned adult learners also. In this case, again, adult learners with disabilities. The last item, number 4, monitoring and evaluation of inclusive education programs involve a wide range of stakeholders, NGOs, CSO, parents groups, learners with disabilities, representatives from organization of persons with disabilities also. Next slide, please. So we're promoting partnering for inclusive education. The actors, the service providers, the CSOs, to partner with parents groups, children with disabilities themselves. Earlier, Lakmali mentioned youth, so youth with disabilities. Okay, based on the UNCRC, we should listen to the voices of the children. And last, partnership with representatives from organization of persons with disabilities. Next slide, please. One more slide. So everything that I've mentioned, presented, it's in the toolkit. I'm very lucky. Just a few days ago, Inclusion International launched this tool to ensure disability inclusion in education and emergencies. Later, we'll share with you the presentation also this week. And the next slide, the final slide, inclusive education emergency and CBID. CBID is community-based inclusive development. CBID will strengthen inclusive education in emergency. So even before the emergency, if there is the capacity of the community, the skill and the capacity of the service providers or humanitarian actors are already disability inclusive, the programs are disability inclusive, everything is designed with inclusion of persons with disabilities as the subject or the beneficiary, or ensuring that they will enjoy the right. In this case, education will make life easier even during emergencies. Maybe not for military conflicts, not as much, but that's another thing to discuss. I hope I did not do it too fast. That's not understandable. Salamat mo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc June. That was so clear. And you really, I really learned a lot, you know. Sometimes we just, you know, read through things, but hearing it from you, it was really very clear. Okay. And Doc Jun's presentation will also be shared to you. Next, now we have as a speaker to talk on harnessing indigenous knowledge and practices in EIE. We have Mr. Jack Calisto. He is the Executive Council member of ASBE and also the National Coordinator of the Coalition on Education in Solomon Islands. Jack?
Hello. Yeah. Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, and good afternoon for some of you. Jack Callisto, and I am from Solomon Islands. It's a very small country in the South Pacific. The topic that I will be sharing with you is harnessing indigenous knowledge and practices in education in emergency. Why this is important, or how do we do this? Basically, is we're using the local communities' wisdom, tradition, and ways of learning to provide education during a crisis. It is also relevant and culturally sensitive and builds resilience. This is done by involving local people using their language and teaching methods, and also incorporating their knowledge and skills into the curriculum. Ultimately, it's about recognizing the value of local wisdom, that to create more effective and empowering education for children in emergency. Next slide. It's good to just to give you a sort of the image, the definition of education emergency. Now, some of you I've already mentioned that during your discussion, but it's very important that this is tied up with the continuing education, continuing learning of our children. So this is really, really important that our culture, our tradition is something that's grounded us, and especially when there is conflict or natural disaster, we always go back to that to help us. So it's really important to really know that our culture and tradition, it's really sort of help us continue our learning, especially when there is emergency in education. Next slide. Now, the next thing is just to what is indigenous knowledge? Again, it is just the wisdom and practices that are passed down through generations within our indigenous communities. Again, it sort of really talks about the cultural identity and our local context, because this again, it's more on sustainability, which will be discussed that later on, is really keeps us going in times of emergency. Next slide. So now we can ask ourselves and how we integrate indigenous knowledge. So it's important because of integrating it, it engages communities, and also it promotes ownership of education processes. It also preserves our cultural heritage, and then fosters a respect for indigenous traditions. And this is really important for us. It's almost like it anchors us onto that. It also it helps students learning experience, encouraging critical thinking and innovation. When we are looking at our education situation, the critical aspect of which is still is sort of a lacking in our children's education. And that is why it's very important to broaden it, to expand it, and also to include our indigenous learning into the education system. It creates inclusive environment and enhancing engagement and success for indigenous studies. So broadening the understanding of education is not only from the classroom, but also out there in the environment, out there in the context. It's also something that is very important for harnessing the indigenous knowledge. Furthermore, again, I've already mentioned early on the sustainable practices, which will help also promoting environmental stewardship, looking after our resources, operating in that space that really gives us the sense of ownership, and also it also gives us the direction and the way forward in our lives. So this is why it's important to integrate indigenous knowledge into our education system. Next, just looking at some of the challenges. So maybe this is for Solomon Islands. So one of the challenges that with indigenous knowledge here in Solomon Islands is that it's very, very difficult to really know or accurately reflect the indigenous perspective in our curriculums, because when we hired people to do our curriculum, most of our technical people are from overseas. They have different experiences. Their knowledge of Solomon Islands is not like an indigenous Solomon Islander. So you can always get something that is outside of our context. The next thing is that the lack of resources. Of course, in the education system, in emergency, there is a lack of traditional or culturally relevant resources available in our schools or in our situations. Another area is the resistance to change. We have people in the education system, and one of the challenges we face is the resistance for change. This is it's happening in all levels, and even some of the parents, the educators, that they think that the Western influence of education, it's a preference, but not realizing the value of our indigenous knowledge or indigenous education into our curriculum. Another point is training and professional developments. So again, there is a need for comprehensive training for educators to effectively teach indigenous perspectives and avoid stereotypes. So yeah, our teachers or our educators, they are well versed with the way they teach, but if they are asked to do something more on traditional knowledge, it becomes a challenge, or they find it so difficult to use or to teach indigenous language into the classroom situation. Another thing is the diverse indigenous culture. In our country, although it's a very small country with 742 population, 742,000 people, we have a diverse sort of cultural settings. So we have the Melanesians, we have the Micronesians, we have the Polynesians, and we all have different ways. So this we have this diversity within our indigenous cultures, which makes it very challenging to create a one-size-fits-all approach sort of education. And the last thing, the point is funding support. Yes, this is still a continuous issue. It's funding these programs that will include indigenous knowledge, which really we want to do, but because of the lack of funds, we're not able to be implemented. Next slide. Just to give you a case study, which is just the scenario of how do we address some of these things in our education system. In 1978 to 2019, so 1998 to 2003, there was an ethnic tension within our country. And it was so devastating. There was no school. All the schools were closed, and also businesses. So it's a case study. It's I would like to share with you. So there was a study on this ethnic tension within our country, and they've developed one of the topics, education for peace building in our schools. And the aim of this is to integrate indigenous knowledge and local histories into the national curriculum. And also this approach was geared toward promoting reconciliation and fostering sense of national identity rooted in local culture. So using culture as one of the bedrocks or as one of the ways to solve the solutions, this is one of the approach that was successful. It really helps to solve. It helps to really foster the idea of resolving the conflicts between the the tension within our country. So just to give you more, to that is just the result of this study. I would just say in the next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. So the result of the case study, one of the results is the historical education divide. So when the dominance of a Western curriculum prior to tensions contributed to a divide between traditional and non-traditional education systems, which it is really affecting the social cohesion. So yeah, so we have this as one of the outcomes of the study. The way the Western sort of influence or education sort of really created that division, or it breaks the social cohesion in the communities. The next one is after that the tension, there was an improvement, an increase in terms of enrollment within our schools, and also with the expansion of facilities in school, building more classrooms. That is also one of the when this is being sort of solved and looking into our situation and contextualizes to look at our needs. This is some of the improvement within our schools. And the last one is just the just before that tension also there was this the less number of children continuing education because of thus there was not enough schools, and also there was the examinations in grade 6 that limits access to education for our children to get higher quality education. So that has been changed also, and also has some improvement in terms of education. So that's all, and thank you, Tomas.
Thank you, Jack, for affirming the importance of harnessing indigenous knowledge and practices in EIE, and giving us a very clear example of a peace building project, which was very successful. Our past discussions really highlight the issue of inclusivity and equity in delivering education in emergencies, and also tying it up to our long-term long-term work also on education for sustainable development, fighting for climate justice, and also our work on global citizenship education or our peace building efforts. We don't have time for open forum, and we'll just ask. We have asked Robbie Guevara. He's the president of the International Council for Adult Education and also our Asia Pacific Board representative to the Global Campaign for Education to give us a reflective synthesis. Thank you, Robbie.
Yes, thank you very much, Maya and the colleagues. It's nice to be back home. As I said, every time I come to speak to ASPE, it's like coming home. So just quickly, I know we're running late, but thank you for the opportunity to reflect. I humbly and with some guilty feelings speak to you today from the safety, and as Rashida said, a privileged place of RMIT University here in Melbourne, in the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations. In an ideal world, we would not need to have a concept like education in emergencies. But unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world. And it's important to recognize how we have contributed to the situation of multiple crises and emergencies, recognizing that some have contributed more than others, like in our country. And sadly, it's the many. And many of them we heard today who haven't or had contributed the least who are suffering the most. It is urgent, and this multiple emergencies and crises requires us all to, in the short term, of course, rapidly respond. In the medium term, perhaps rehabilitate, recover, and with the hope and peace that in unity, in the future long term, renew our world. Many years ago, as a young environmental educator in the Philippines, where I started my whole career in adult learning, I was conducting an environmental awareness to action workshop in a school with young children. It was during the energy crisis in the 70s, which many of you may not have still been born, shows my age, that was triggered by events in the Middle East. I was speaking about how we need to conserve energy and protect the planet. And I was asked by one student, why are you wasting time talking to our class about this when the problem is out there? Why not contribute to peace? Why not contribute to looking for alternative sources like nuclear? I was still a bit taken aback by this young boy. My response to him was, I'm an environmentalist, an educator, and this, the classroom, eventually it shifted to more community settings, is my site of education. This is my site of change. I'm not equipped to fight in the front lines, nor capable of developing nuclear technology. Not that I would advocate for that even today. I challenged him to keep that attitude of inquiry burning, continue to ask the difficult questions, and find a way to discern and learn where his most significant contribution might be. Not just to solve the energy crisis, nor the conflict, but to contribute to a more equitable, sustainable, peaceful, just, and inclusive world. The same is true today, except that the situation of crisis and emergencies is global in scope and scale, interconnected, and yet very local in impact. There's a real sense of urgency, and it does not seem to diminish, but even more become more intense. So for everyone, it's important for us to recognize that there are multiple sites and contexts of crisis and emergencies that we live and face. It's important for us to reflect, where are you best placed to provide your knowledge, your skills, your actions? Where are you best placed to commit to contributing individually, collectively, and institutionally? We heard today from speakers who spoke passionately about what they do, what we need to do, and what urgently needs to be done around the theme of the Global Action Week 2025, Education Saves Lives. And not surprising for me as the president of the ICAE, the International Council for Adult Education, to avidly and advocately support for EIE within a lifelong learning framework. And thanks to Taka for reminding us, when we mean lifelong learning, we mean not just schooling, but as non-formal education, informal learning, not just children, but across the lifespan, including preschool and older adults. And not just about the urgent issues, but as much about recognizing the deeper issues that face us, and the kind of learning that values all human life as valuable, and all life and all of our earth as valuable. I acknowledge, although, that those like Asai and colleagues whose site of education and advocacy work is in the very areas of crisis and emergencies. We recognize their courage, strength, and skills to deal not just with teaching, but ensuring that learning continues, but trying to manage amidst uncertainty and lack of safety. How do we best support these teachers, these advocates, these educators? We acknowledge all those whose site of education might be more in the periphery, ensuring that there are resources available to protect them and help them prepare to rehabilitate when the situation allows. We've seen the crisis that involved around protecting civil society workers, NGO workers also. We acknowledge that those whose site of education and advocacy may be geographically further away, who are advocating for our governments to meet their commitments, ensure sufficient, sustainable, and predictable funding for education in emergencies, as Grant told us at the start, but also a commitment to building a truly resilient, locally relevant, equitable, and inclusive education system. We acknowledge the educators whose site of education and advocacy work is not just geographically further, but working with people who think that that's not my problem, it's far away. We need to develop ways for them to understand their own role, not just in supporting, but in contributing to rebuilding and renewing our world, ensuring it is inclusive, as Doc Jun spoke of, recognizing the need to incorporate other knowledges and ways of learning, as Jack spoke about, valuing the role of youth, as Lakmali shared, but also recognizing, as Faisal said at the start, how do we measure and evaluate this? We need a new curriculum, a new pedagogy, a new ethos that values what we have learned to be called as truly global citizens. But most of all, and I humbly and with some guilt, as I say, acknowledge those who are living in the situations of crisis: youth, girls, women, learners with disabilities, refugees, indigenous, and others. We need to engage with them to co-create with us what it is for them that is genuine integration of the kind of problems that they need to be solved and the kind of knowledge that they have and approaches in education in emergencies. Paulo Freire speaks of being hopeful, not just as a feeling, an abstract feeling or aspiration, but about an active and radical hope, a critical hope and a collective hope that has within it a power to transform. Today, we have witnessed different manifestations of this active, critical, and radical hope. We have hope because we are aware that we are, wherever we find ourselves, actively working in partnership through the Global Campaign for Education, through ASBE, through INE, through ICAE, and other civil society networks, all contributing to education and learning that saves lives. Thank you for the opportunity to share my reflections with you all today, and I wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Maraming salamat, Maya, for the invitation to share this.
Thank you very much, Robbie, for affirming the diverse roles and sites that we operate and giving us a very hopeful message. And now we go to our closing. I would like to ask Ms. Shirley Abraham. She is the Executive Council member of ASBE and the coordinator of the Vanuatu Association of NGOs, or VANGO. Ms. Shirley? You're muted. Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone, for the very powerful message. I cannot even thank you enough, especially for this opportunity to learn. I believe we are all here together learning. We have a piece of message that we can bring back to our organization about how we can support our own countries in education in emergency. We have heard from all the different speakers talking about different thematic areas of inclusive education. We're talking about indigenous learning, education. We're looking into the areas of women and girls, the youth, all of which are correlated and related to, even we're not just looking at the Asia, but also the Pacific. There is different challenges. We're reminded about the, looking at how we can be able to homegrown some of our strategies. In Vanuatu, we have seen that the issue of disaster for us, when we face the 7.4 magnitude of earthquake. This is the first time we have experienced such a huge impact in the country. And so it reminds us that, we will have to relook at how we are working. And I'm glad especially to hear from Robbie about looking at how we can change the curriculum, how we can rework on the curriculum, the existing curriculum, to reflect the context that we have. So thank you very much, everyone, for the active participation, and the presenters. Thank you very much for the insight. We have learned a lot from this session, and I wish you all the best in your advocacy of continuing to hold the government into account, especially for education and emergency policies and strategies in each of your country. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Shirley, and thank you, everyone. This is the closing of our session. We have gone over time, 30 minutes, but I guess we learned a lot, and we'll do better next time. And hoping that, we can still smile because Robbie gave us that very hopeful message. And we are operating in dire situations, but we have the strength within and with our colleagues, our workers. We can, as Robbie said, co-create a better world. Thank you very much, everybody.